Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we're here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, presumably by a man Lao Tzu. And this was a really wonderful time to be writing. It was really kind of at the beginning stages of all our writing. It's when scholars believe the Old Testament was written. You didn't have so many people that knew how to write, and so the only things that were getting written were people that knew how to write, and it was it was new, it was novel, but it was also seen as very important. And so the things that were written were things that were really being about thinking about what was going on. These are things that people wanted to remember, people wanted to look at. And so we are looking at the Tao Te Ching. And the Tao Te Ching is an interesting text. In all religion that I know, and in all of the philosophical texts and things that I'm familiar with, the Tao, and I'm going to focus on chapter 1 today. So the whole idea of Tao of the day is that you get a Tao of the day for yourself. So what we do is I invite you up, and we have a brief conversation about what's going on with you these days. And then when we understand, just get a baseline of, hey, I'm working a lot, or, I'm in transition, or whatever's kind of going on in your life. We don't have to talk deeply about it unless you're open to doing that. Then I'll ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81, because the Tao Te Ching consists of 81 chapters, and each of those chapters just encompasses a different way of looking at the world. And when I talk about the Tao, I always like to remind people that it's about living a more reasonable life. When you get upset at someone else, that's not reasonable, because they're just doing what they do. Yesterday, I had an experience where I got emotional. And so it's interesting, because I'm going to be choosing one, and I didn't think about which number I was going to be choosing. And then yesterday I got emotional because I was in an experience where I felt someone was using me as entertainment, and was debating me as entertainment. And it just, it rubbed me the wrong way. And so one of the things that I was doing today is kind of going through and being like, okay, what was my experience here? How can I learn from this without being the victim of this other person? And I did see that there are areas in my life where I may use people as entertainment. Not necessarily purposefully, but it is true. There is and for the amount, I don't want to be like, I'm a bad person for doing this or anything like that. But there are areas where, there are times where I'm still and I'm not able to be comfortable, and I'll reach out to somebody and, have interactions with them that are for my own entertainment, right? They become a means to an end, and that's not ethical, and that's not a way that I want to live. And I saw this person doing that sort of with me, and I want to be sure that I'm not doing that with anybody. And so I want to make sure that I move into the space of, hey, let's be aware of where I'm actually participating in this. And I don't participate it in a way that is so obvious or denigrating as I feel like I experienced yesterday. However, if I experience it all, if I experience something like, oh, I don't like that I'm being this person's entertainment, I don't like that I'm like this person is just putting me in the position of his entertainment. But then I also have to recognize where entertainment or being entertaining, where I want to be entertaining, right? I want to be entertaining at least a little bit here, even though I also want it to be good for me and good for you and a nice conversation and stuff. There is a tilt of, let's look at this as, at least to some extent, as entertainment. But I am going to read chapter 1. And it's important because this one's about words. And this is the thing, when I read this verse for the first time, chapter 1 of the Tao Te Ching, I really understood what I was getting myself into. Because what the first verse of the Tao says is this paradoxical sort of expression of words cannot express Tao. And if they cannot express Tao, and I'm reading words, well, what is this? What am I about to embark on? What am I going to do with this? So let's go ahead and read this and really kind of take this apart and recognize that this is how the Tao Te Ching opens up. This is the first line of the Tao. Words are particular. They cannot express Tao. To have a name is to be limited to manifestation. That which is nameless is the source of manifestation. Want to express the depth of the mystery? Stop identifying. Want to express the shallowness of manifestation? Differentiate. Either way, no one can tell the differences in your experience. This is really interesting, especially considering the experience I had yesterday and this morning, where I was, kind of going over like, oh wait, where do I use people as entertainment? Because if I'm using someone as entertainment, if I'm using someone as a means to an end, which is wholly unethical, I am experiencing the shallowness of manifestation. There isn't any depth. There isn't any connection. Now, I do connect with these people as well, and so that's not necessarily like the shallowness of everything. But do I want to experience the depth of the mystery? Stop identifying with what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and who I am, and what I want, and then just kind of be present with what is. Either way, no one can tell the differences in the experience, right? Like on the outside, no one can tell. And that's the interesting thing, where it's like, the people that I'm engaging, or people who are engaging me, they're not going to be able to tell what experience I'm having. They're not going to be able to tell how I'm experiencing this moment, or how I'm experiencing, like if I'm using someone to, be entertained, that's something that's going to kind of put me in a position of, superiority, but they're not going to be able to know, they're not going to be able to differentiate that, right? I will. And what is my experience, right? My experience of the thing that happened yesterday or whatever was, I was frustrated. And my experience also revolved around the idea that I was frustrated that they were using me as entertainment. And so my obvious, reflection is, one, where have I been used as entertainment and that hurt me? And two, where am I using people as entertainment? Right? Words are particular. They cannot express Tao. And so when I start feeling through this, that's when I'm able to sort of understand deeper what is at the core of the experience. And when I can kind of see what's at the core of the experience, I can see, well, oh yeah, like I'm not so good. I'm not right. I'm not, and this is going off in a way that I didn't expect it to go, to be quite honest. I was expecting to talk about words and how the whole Tao is this paradox of words expressing what it cannot express. But we also have names, right? So self-referential, those who name themselves. And when I name myself, I'm also kind of choosing a certain identity of someone who does certain things. And this is where I can get upset, right? I'm Martin John. I'm in control of my emotions. I'm, I can see the depth in the shallow. I can see all of these things, but I can still get caught up. But because I reference myself, because it's self-referential, I named myself, I don't want to look at that aspect of myself. And due to my not wanting to look at that aspect of myself, I start using words to be the victim of this other person. I start using words to be the victim of this experience. And yet there is no victim. All of these words are particular. It's not me. It's not mine. It's just the experience I'm having, right? The difference is in the experience. Every experience I have, I can either embrace it and learn from it, right? There are Tao chapters which talk about like embracing the mystery. There's also Tao's that talk about like you're the mother of your experience. And that's at the core of this experience I had yesterday, right? So I have an experience where, I feel like another person is toying with me and making me is pushing my buttons so that I get emotional. Well, I recognize, in hindsight that, I could have walked away from this. I could have been very just blunt and been like, I don't appreciate this conversation and I'm going to walk away from it. Or I could have not had the conversation, right? I engaged in the conflict. And by engaging in that, I immediately put myself in a position where I'm unable to be in control, right? I can't and and it's not that I want to be in control of the other person. I want to be in control of the situations that I put myself in, right? So I'm engaging in this and it's like, and I know in my mind, that's like, I don't have to engage this. I can let this go, but words are particular and I have an identity. And so when that person used some words and then I recognized that I was his entertainment, like I really needed to be able to calm down and walk away and be like, look, this isn't fruitful in any way. This isn't productive. You aren't even being nice to me. And yes, it turned out I was not going to be nice to them, but it's within the experience that, and I was experiencing the shallowness of manifestation. I was experiencing that at that moment, I was engaged in manifestation and only manifestation. I was not engaged in myself. I was not engaged in the mystery. Now that I'm through with it, I'm engaged in the mystery and it is a blessing, right? Like that experience, that trigger that I had is a blessing and I get to explore that blessing by asking myself, what happened? Right. And it's not words that I'm using when I say what happened. When I say what happened, it's not like, I was a victim, because words are particular. They cannot express Tao. And what is Tao? Tao is all things. Right? Tao is the depth of everything. And so when I'm in a space where I was triggered and I'm calm now, I can sit and ask energetically. I mean, I could use the words because that's how we launch an energetic, investigation. What happened? Now, if I get emotional again, when I say what happened, I'm probably engaged in the manifestation. So to have a name is to be limited to manifestation. Once you explain what happened, that's its name. So when I say what happened, I start going, oh, well, I was here and I was innocent and I was this and then this person did this, right? Like all of a sudden I'm limiting the experience to be manifestation because I am naming it. I am naming it with all of these words. I am naming it with all of this recollection. That which is nameless is the source of manifestation. So if I ask what happened and I don't give it a name and I just feel what happened, where did I close off? Something is going to pop into my mind. Yes, these are words. Those words are particular. That word is a name, right? Self-referential, those who name themselves. So you name yourself. You name yourself as related to the experience. You name yourself, as you are, and you sit and you feel that and you feel like, is this an identity that I hold? Is this an identity that I'm looking at? Is this an identity that I because you go back and forth, right? Because what's the next line? Want to experience the depth of the mystery? Stop identifying. Want to experience the shallowness of manifestation? Differentiate. You need to be able to have both, because you are in the manifestation and you are the mystery. But you stop, whenever you can, you stop identifying, which means you stop giving names to things. You stop explaining things. You allow yourself to feel what's happening, to feel what's going on within your body. Once again, you got triggered. Like yesterday, I got triggered. I went through a whole experience. I was upset. Yesterday, I was just like, this guy's a bitch. Like, he's doing all this stuff. Da, 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 da. I let it go. I woke up this morning. I didn't want to re-engage it, but I do want to learn from the experience. Why did I get triggered? Because I don't want to get triggered. Because getting triggered means that I am manipulatable. Getting triggered means that I am unable to be who I am. I am now coming and acting from the space of the trigger. So I don't want to be triggered. Why was I triggered? And what's coming up for me is, oh, he was using you as entertainment, right? Like, you felt he wasn't using you as entertainment. Once again, it's not about being a victim. I felt as if I was being used as entertainment. I felt as if the conversation that I was having was disingenuous. And so I have to ask myself, okay, what do those things mean to me? What does it mean to me to be disingenuous? What does it mean to me to be used as manifestation? Where have I experienced these things before? And where do I treat people this way? When I can recognize those things about myself, when I can say, okay, this is where I use people as entertainment, this is where I'm disingenuous, then I can start saying, okay, now I have deeper awareness of a part of myself that someone else showed me. Now, whatever, I could walk away from that experience and say, it is just them. I am the victim of them. Well, guess what? That's identifying. That's a name. You're the victim and they're the perpetrator. I heard something really interesting the other day. If you engage with someone who has a victim mentality, you will eventually, no matter what you do, be the perpetrator, because they're a victim. So anytime you engage a victim, you are setting yourself up at some point to be the perpetrator of what it is they're a victim of. So I'm going to read this again, and we're going to see if anything else pops up. If anybody wants to pick a number between 1 and 81, please feel free to come up on stage. We'll have a little chat, get a baseline, and then ask you to pick a number. Number 1, expressing Tao. Words are particular. They cannot express Tao. To have a name is to be limited to manifestation. That which is nameless is the source of manifestation. Self-referential, those who name themselves. Want to experience the depth of the mystery? Stop identifying. Want to experience the shallowness of manifestation? Differentiate. Either way, no one can tell. The difference is in your experience. I want to focus on this line, self-referential, those who name themselves, and why that line is so important. And again, if anybody wants to step up, please do. Self-referential, those who name themselves. We already have established words are particular, they cannot express Tao. What is a name if not a word or words? To have a name, to be identified with words, is to be limited to manifestation. So you are limited to manifestation if you can identify with words, whether that's a name or whether that's an explanation of who you are, what you do. You are limited to manifestation because that name, those words can only exist in manifestation, because outside of manifestation is nameless. Right? That which is nameless is the source of manifestation. And so, I always like to talk to clients in a way that's like, hey, we're going to get rid of the perpetrator and we're going to only look at your experience without the perpetrator involved. Just like yesterday, I had an experience with another person, if I remove that person and say, what was my experience? My experience was that I was being used as entertainment, and I was butting heads with something or someone that was disingenuous. Those were the experiences that I had. I don't know what they were doing or what their purpose was. I'm not trying to tell that story. I'm not trying to engage that in any way. I'm just here without words saying this is my experience. And of course, we use words because that was in the manifestation. The experience was in the manifestation. And in order to kind of get into the nameless, into the source of manifestation, we have to energetically sort of set our compass to that. We have to set our compass to, this experience. And this experience, okay, I have a story about the experience, but the experience is still energetic. And so I sit with the energy that I just identified with a name, right, to put me in the manifestation. Now, self-referential, those who name themselves. Self-referential, meaning because we name things, right? Like squirrels aren't out there naming things. I mean, maybe they are. They have their own language, but we're the ones that are writing it down and keeping it close and making sure we don't forget. So because we're self-referential, and even if squirrels are self-referential, they might name themselves as well, right? It's like, that's not one of us, right? That's a human walking around. And I'm going to tell my buddies there's a human walking around, But if they know that I'm a human, they know that they can be referenced as well. And they've probably named themselves. Teresa Bailey is going to join me. I'm excited. I don't think I've talked to Teresa. Hey, Teresa, how are you? Teresa? Oh, there you are. How are you? Are you with me? Teresa Bailey? Sometimes people push the button by accident. If you can hear me, you can say hello, or we can move on. So on this show, I invite you up so that we can just say hey, and beyond that, we can pick a number between 1 and 81. And then we read that chapter of the Tao and see how that might relate to what it is that's going on in your life. So, Teresa, usually I would just give folks like a minute or so to kind of figure it out. It feels like you're still trying to figure it out. I'm going to take you out of the queue. And if something was wrong, if you please come back up and we can talk a little bit more from there. Yeah, always love to have guests. Always that's the point of this show. So if you have a number that you want to select, or if you just want to experience this and have an experience, Stephanie's going to join me. Always nice to chat with Stephanie. How are you doing today?
Hey, Martin John. I'm good. How are
How's it going?
you?
I'm doing well. I think my timer's fixed. I'm gonna actually end up
Yay.
if my timer is fixed, I think I'm gonna actually go back to 15 minutes, because it's always 15 minutes is really a great time to do these.
Yeah.
So because it's you get to chat, and then you read through something, and then you can get through people. I had it set for 30 minutes, and it's like when someone sees 30 minutes, they're like, I'm not gonna wait 30 minutes to talk to Martin John. But I'm
I
worth it.
sometimes get a little panicky, 30 minutes. But I know, people can always, once they're done, they're like, I can leave now, right? If they need
Yeah,
to.
absolutely. But I like setting it to 15, because 30 minutes is daunting. It's a daunting time.
Yeah. I think it's Cecilia Grace that has it for an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa.
But yeah, like I like Cecilia, like people talk with her for, like 5-10 minutes, and when it's done, she knows when it's done, and she just pushes them on. It's sometimes you get people who just want to talk,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
Yeah. I had a 10-minute timer once on mine, and I thought, well, yeah, it's a little long, at least for me, but depends who you're talking with. Sometimes it can be
Yeah.
great, and sometimes it's like, oh boy, this is really long. But yeah,
And one of the nice things I like about 15-minute timers is if it does go beyond 15 minutes, I have this window where they're not on my channel, right? This 3-5 seconds or whatever, that I can be like, okay, you're going to come up and we're going to wrap this up, right? And
yeah,
so we then have this sort of mindset of, okay, this isn't, like this isn't just like the Stephanie show. You know what I mean? Like we're here to do something purposeful, whatever, right?
yeah,
Like we're here to talk about the Tao, and we're not going to go on and on about like, other things or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So what's going on with you these days?
Oh, okay.
And
Martin
thanks for
John.
all your support and love, by the way,
Oh, you're
in the chat.
welcome.
Like, yeah.
You were such a bright um light in the morning, and I'm like, is Martin John on today? I just love listening to you. And yeah, I really appreciate it. I've okay. When you're going through and you're doing well, you have these like days, you're just like, yeah, the world is mine. And then it seems like, and I think I know when I go back to old habits, these things will pop up. But lately, there's so much fear that comes up for me. And then I stop doing things. And of course, then it gets worse because I'm like, I'm not taking action.
Mm.
And then I fear the action, but I know taking the action will take away the fear because I, and then I start, those thoughts and perceptions in your head of what other people think of you based on what you think of
All right, I'm going to
yourself.
stop you right there. I do want you to complete, but I want to pick a number when you feel this way right
Oh, okay. I don't know. 81's coming up for me.
now. Okay. 81 is entitled Blossoming Leader.
Whoa.
True words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. Connected to source, there is no desire to prove. Desire to prove only exposes separateness from source. The master's possessions are not part of the manifestation. Giving away her possessions, she only receives more. Tao blesses everyone in this way. When this blessing can be received, domination and power will yield, while all people will blossom as leaders. What did you hear there?
I should have written some stuff down because now I've lost it. But there was something that you said. Was it about when you're trying to prove something?
So desire to prove only exposes separateness from source.
Yeah.
Connected to source, there is no desire to prove. And all of this stuff that you're talking about, like if I were to take what you were talking about, now I had to cut you off, and I'm sorry that I did, but it's so important to be able to have this baseline. And this is why we talk in the beginning, because
Hmm.
I want you to be a little in touch with what's actually happening to you. Like, what's going on? What's making me emotional? What's making me uncertain? Connected to source, there's no desire to prove. Stillness. You'll be still. You'll be able to be still. It's that discomfort with being still, that discomfort with maybe not taking action. Maybe it's not the right time to take action.
Well, I'm more of the non-action person who likes
Yeah.
to sit and wait for things. So taking
Mm.
action is one of my things. Actually, I get panicky, and I think it's because And I was just watching a video on happiness and this guy talking about all of these plans we have and goals and like yeah, they're good, but for so many of us it's just it, it's the way that there's so much about hustle and I just want to live in peace. And so when there's like action, you got to take action, you got to do this, I get all stress mode because I start hearing that,
So
even though that's not necessarily true.
how did you do in school?
I did okay. Um,
How did you do? If I were to ask your mom how you did, what would she say?
I always got my homework done. My parents didn't have to worry about me like they were worried about my sister.
Okay. Okay.
But she struggled a lot and she didn't get
So,
assignments done on time and stuff.
so I just want to, I just, so you follow the rules really well.
Yes.
Okay. So I want, like we have to look at this, right? We have to look at the idea that like you follow the rules. What are the rules under which you're influenced? Right? Like one, you want to take time off. You want to put your feet up. You like stillness. You like non-action. You like um, leisure,
Yeah.
right? And there is nothing wrong with that, right? Because you may have a human design, or you may have, astrological or whatever. Like the planets just may align for you to enjoy that. However, as someone who gets their homework done and does all of the things right and all of this, like you're doing that for someone else. You're doing that as this expressed, connected to source. There's no desire to prove. Desire to prove only exposes separateness from source. All of these things, right? What you were talking about earlier, the part of this 81 that stood out to you and your experience growing up are all connected. That's curious.
Hmm.
Have we
Well,
talked about, go on?
I was just gonna say, so many of my friends, because I start to get stressed if I'm online too much, and I say, so and so said we have to do this, and they're like, why do you keep listening to so and so, and why do you get stressed? And I said, because it's these rules.
So the algorithm is going to devour you,
Yeah.
because what happens is you hear something, the algorithm sees that, wow, you spent a lot of time listening to that. Let's give that to you again. And then the algorithm's going to say, wow, she listened to two. Let's give her the same information. Let's give her the same information coming from a different perspective. Let's give her the same information coming from a different, resource. And so everywhere you go, you're seeing what you perceive as, because the algorithm is giving it to you at such a velocity. You believe it's truth.
And I like to learn. Learning for me is like, what more can I learn? But then I learn so much, and if I don't take action on these things as well, then I'm not really, you know what
It's
I
not,
mean? Like you can
yeah, it's
absorb
not
so
doing
much.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can get stuck in that.
And there's also a point where we have to sparse it out. They have to parse it out at some point, right? We have to like learning is great. And the thing is that when learning something, and then if you learn something that causes you to judge yourself, that's something that you learned is only stagnating your ability to grow because of the judgment. Judgment stagnates energy.
Yeah.
And so it's really in the comparisons and remember, doing your homework and being a good student is really um, it is about being judged.
Hmm.
It is about being put on a measuring stick. It is about, like, you may not be the straight A student, right? So that person has other fucked up things they have to deal with. right? You, being the person who follows the rules, has to realize, like, I'm accepted because I do this. I'm being received. I'm liked because I do this. I am, like, I am a good person because I do this. Right? And so you have a frame of reference in which being a good person revolves around doing the right thing. Now, once you start sitting and you're not in action, what's going to happen is you're going to possibly get bored, and then you're going to be like, I got to do something.
Hmm.
Or you are going to judge yourself after a day or two of watching your programs on TikTok or whatever, right? like you're gonna watch your stuff, you're gonna do your thing, and you're gonna be like, I gotta get off my ass, right? I gotta do something about this, and then that stress is going to come up,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Because there's a desire to prove.
it's funny. Like I get so much enjoyment out of stories, and I get a lot of lessons out of stories. Like
Yeah.
if something happens, I'll refer, oh, this happened on a TV show or a movie because I relate things to those stories. And it's really funny because when I was growing up, I loved TV and movies. Um, I also like to put myself out of reality. Like it was an
Hmm.
addiction for me. So in that
Yeah.
case, it wasn't healthy. But at the same time, um, I was always like, you watch too much TV, and it was kind of like sinful because you know how I grew up.
Right. Yeah.
And but you know, I now watch, like, there's movie directors and they're like, oh, I was obsessed with movies as a kid, and for them that was their joy. And I was like, there was nothing wrong with me enjoying that as a kid. And then I felt guilty because I was always chastised at church and by my friends and family for watching too much TV. And I was like, but I
Right.
just enjoyed, I love the what I could get out of the stories. And it's really funny how, but then I can like, still now when I'm not doing well, I go back to, I'm going to
Mhm.
watch something instead of living my life. I'm going to watch it because I don't want to deal with reality right now. So I know I use that.
Of course. So I talk about that as being pacifiers, right? You have these pacifiers that you use because, like, oh, I'm feeling a little something, and I wanna disassociate. I want to step away. And so I say, oh, you're engaging in a pacifier, right? Like, we can call it addiction, but I like the word pacifier because it just expresses really what it is. It's pacifying.
Hmm.
It's helping us pacify in this moment. Um, but eventually, the voice of your parents are gonna come in, because you're under the influence of that still. And it's like the voice of them is going to be like, oh, you're not being a good citizen. You're not being a good person. You're not being, because you are wasting your time and all of this. And it's like, oh, well, now that's internal dialogue. And it's very difficult to get over that if we don't recognize that dialogue isn't helpful, really. It's taking you away from, like, being you. Now you are pacifying. So can you turn off the show and feel uncomfortable with the thoughts that you're not good enough or whatever it is, right? Like you're not holy enough, or you're not fucking, like, whatever it is,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah.
is there a desire to prove yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I definitely know that. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I was just like, I really loved to sing and I took voice lessons. And I was always like, um, just wait till I'm a famous singer. And, because people bullied me. And so
Mm.
that was like, I'm just gonna, out of revenge, I'm gonna be something. And I know, like, I know the path to healing is doing things out of a love for it and a desire to help people.
Hmm.
And so whenever that comes up, I'm like, okay, well, that's not a helpful way of wanting to do better in your life to prove to other people. It's how, what can you do to bring something to the world instead of looking at it that way. But it's a lot less than it was.
Right.
But there's still this aspect in there of like, well, other people kind of see me as this or what, maybe, I don't know. Um, but well, just wait until they know what I'm doing or,
Right. And let's kind of like loop this back around to the idea that like if you're on the couch watching movies, how is that going to, in your mind, prove anything to anybody? And then you start judging yourself that, oh, they're right.
hmm
Then you start kind of engaging in the self-abuse. And when we're doing that, right, this is like this, what's so interesting is today I read one, and the one was all about like words cannot express Tao, right? It's not going to be about like what you say. And then here it said true words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. If I came over here and just was trying to pat you on the back and make you feel good about yourself all the time, well, those aren't true words, you know? But the
hmm
reality is like when I say something and you're open to receive it, like you're going to find comfort within those words. Even if I'm saying like, oh yeah, well, you're going out there and pacifying yourself. It's like a lot of people might get offended by that. However, if it's coming from an open place within me and it's being received and from an open place within you, then you'll be able to be comforted by, you know what, it's true, I am doing these things and whatever. And then we come into connected to source. There's no desire to prove. You don't have to prove you're right or prove that you're something great. The thing is the way you grew up and everything, it's always about like there is so much fame in religion, right?
hmm
Like Jesus is your famous like right dude, right? Like he's the guy that is going to sell out stadiums, you know.
yeah.
And we don't know how to manage a famous god, you know, because what is fame today? Fame is just shallow. Fame is this emptiness, but you have depth and you're searching for that depth. And there are times you escape and that's okay. And there are times you are judged and that's okay. And then you have the conversation with your own life. You step into the conversation of your life. It's just like, oh, I'm judging myself today. Well, let's observe that. Instead of
hmm
judging it, let's just watch as it happens and then be like, wow, I'm being a bitch. Let's pull that back a bit, man. Like it's all right that we're here. Now, when it start, like as we start to kind of go back and forth with the conversation, as I tell people that, especially like when we're working with this idea of recovering who you are, and that's what you're doing. You're recovering from your religious like upheaval that you grew up in, and you are moving into yourself. You're trusting yourself more. And as you start to trust yourself more, you have to recognize, what do you like that you're doing? You know, like, do
hmm
you like that you're doing this? Do you like that you're having this conversation? Do you like that you're sitting here watching TV? Do you watching a movie? Do you like that you're stressed over action? Do you like that you don't know what to do next, or whatever, or that you're confused or whatever? And then just kind of recognize these things and recognize how you feel about them. Because as you can recognize how you feel about them, you can go into it with awareness. You can say, oh, I don't like that I'm doing this, but I don't have the energy to do anything else. I'm just going to sit here and watch this movie. But I do recognize that I don't like that I'm doing it. And that's cool too. It's good to be aware that you don't like that you're doing something. I know there are times where like I'm on a special diet for my MS and stuff. And the other day I was like, I left my house and I was walking to the gas station to get a Charleston Chew. For whatever reason, that's been my go-to over the last couple of weeks since I got back from Spain. And I hadn't had one in like 3 or 4 days. And I was like, as I'm walking to the gas station, I'm like, I don't like that I'm doing this. And then I asked myself, do I have the energy to turn around and not do this? And I said, no, I don't. And I said, okay. And I just surrendered to the fact that I'm going to get a Charleston chew, and I'm going to get it, and I'm going to eat it on the way back. And that's it. And that's what's going to happen. And I don't like that I'm doing it because it's off my diet. My diet is keeping me, walking and stuff. It's not like if I eat it, I'm going to hurt myself. But if I do eat sugar, I know I'm going to want sugar again later, and that's going to send me through withdrawal again and all of these sorts of things, right? It's not going to kill me. It's not going to take away my ability to walk, but it's a slippery slope to that. And so I have to be aware of that. And I have to be aware, well, what do I want to do with this? And it's okay for us to not be our best at every moment, be making the best choices at every moment. But if we're not making the best choices, are we making choices that we're still okay with making? Or are we making a decision that I'm going to judge myself later for having made? Am I doing it with open eyes? Or am I doing it and going to claim the victim later?
Mm. I really like that perspective. Like it's so neat to think of, like, instead of judging yourself, you just observe. And like, yeah, because I've had um struggles with food since I was really little, and there was always this judgment which made it worse.
Yeah. It stagnates.
And I don't know if I mentioned, if I was on here talking about it or some one other talk, but I said I went to Herbal Magic one year. I paid thousands of dollars like 20 years ago. And I actually, leaving there and getting weighed and leaving there, I would go and get Starbucks next door because I felt worse.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know what it was at the time. But when you realize, why are you doing this? Oh, it's because I feel awful. And so now it gets easier to think, okay, why do I want that thing? Because I don't want to deal with the emotions I have.
Right. Yeah.
And
But
sometimes I still
that's
do the thing.
huge. That is huge in the middle of you not, like I was talking about my experience yesterday. I was triggered. But if I'm triggered, do you think I have the mindset to actually deal with it? No, there is no way. So I could be aware. I tell people all the time, there's just like, yeah, you can know your trauma, you can know where it comes from. But if it keeps coming up, you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And so yes, you know why you're going, because you can't deal with all of your problems, and that's fine. But taking it to a simpler place of, well, you don't like that you're doing this, recognize that. And then also recognize that you're going to do this until you don't.
Hmm.
And so,
Well, and it's
yeah, go.
funny because when you were talking about the rules, I automatically go, oh, Stephanie, you should have sat and meditated and sat with your feelings. You know what I mean? Because those are what people tell you to do.
Well, and that's why it's so important when I was walking to the gas station to ask myself, can I turn around?
Mm,
Because now I will not be able to shit on myself later. I should have.
yeah.
Because I know I wasn't capable of it. And there's nothing wrong with that, because at some point you're just too tired. At some point you don't have the energy. At some point it's just happening. And it's going to happen. And if it's going to happen, you have to accept it. And if you're going to go back in 10 minutes and be like, oh, I shouldn't have had that macchiato. I shouldn't have done this. Well, now you're in the Bible spiral,
Hmm.
right? You're in the, oh, well, Jesus wouldn't have done that. Well, fuck him. Like, he also didn't have, he didn't have my children. He didn't have my, whatever, whatever it is, right? Like, he didn't have an upbringing where everyone was telling him to, look at someone else, right? He's the fucking guy. Like, he's the one that's fucking, making it hard on everybody else, right? Like, Like, so like putting it in the perspective of just like, like when you're going to go to pick up the macchiato or whatever, right? Like, you're like, can I just get a regular coffee? Is that possible? Do I even
Mm-hmm.
want that? No, I don't even like that. So can I not go? And it's like, no, actually, I'm already going, and I have no desire to not go. Everything is driving me to go. And say, okay, I don't like that I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it. And we recognize, and this is great for anybody that struggles with, a pacifier or an addiction. You're going to do it until you don't.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about having that in your mind, you're going to do it until you don't, is that there is going to be a point where you don't. There is going to be a point where when you ask yourself, can I stop? You're going to say, actually, yeah, there is energy in there for me to stop. Is this the day that I don't do it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, wow, let's see. And then you just like try to not do it. And then it doesn't happen. And then you're like, wow. Now, tomorrow, it might happen again. And that's okay. But you have the experience of it not happening. That means that you've learned that you have the energy, you have the power to say no, you have the experience to say no. And it's not something that you're going to go celebrate. Like, oh, I did this thing. Because once you celebrate it, you elevate it to a level that is like, well, if tomorrow you can't do it, then you're going to be down in the dumps because you don't have anything to celebrate today.
Oh, that's good because I do celebrate. Because
Fuck celebrate.
I do, and I've had those moments where I'm like, no, I don't need the thing. And I've been so excited because I'm like, I did it. But then the next day I do it and then I feel worse. So that
Right, because you're
that
like,
completely makes sense.
I made so much progress yesterday, and now I'm back. And this is the cycle. Right? This
Yeah.
is the cycle. And it's okay that you did it one day and didn't do it the next. You have experience of not doing it.
Well, what's so interesting is when I'm excited about something and I'll like my mom and I are really close. I tell her all the stuff and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then when I'm going through a really down part and she's like, oh, but you were saying you were so excited. And I said, yeah, but like, I know, but this is
Right.
now, and people will say certain things like that. Right. And you just think, oh no, but then I realize, but I'm human. And so doesn't mean that.
It's not a destination.
Yeah, and it's like those people, they're like, oh, they went to rehab. Oh, they fell off the wagon again. And I'm like, for many people, it's a process and it
Yeah.
can take them 5 times to go to rehab, 10 times until it really hits because it's not like, oh, they went to rehab, they're healed now. No, that's not how it works.
They're going to do it until they don't.
Yeah.
And they may have been in rehab for other people.
Yeah,
And if they're in rehab for other people, they're going to keep doing it.
right.
It's not until you do it truly for yourself. And you're not looking for comparison or praise, right? There's no desire to prove. You're just ready. And you're going to do it until you don't. And there's no judgment there. And there's no like and these tools that I'm talking about, like asking yourself, do you like that you're doing it, and recognizing that you're going to do it until you don't, are huge in relieving yourself of a lot of stress.
Thank you so much, Martin John. This
Absolutely.
this was very lovely and very helpful.
I love you. Have a wonderful
Have a
day.
good day. You too. Bye.
Bye bye. We're going to bring Dr. Rao up now. And yeah, I'm interested to see what he's got. Hey, Dr. Rao, how are you, my friend?
I am great. I am chuckling when I heard the word blossoming when you were reading that,
Yes.
I was reminded of the term flowering.
Yeah.
Flowering, that means flower, right?
Hmm.
Does flower know that it is flowering?
Right.
Does flower know that it is giving fragrance? Does flower know that it is emanating beauty? right?
Yeah.
The flower is not in the source. The flower is source.
Right. And I think that, if you don't mind, like this verse, this
Yeah,
81, this blossoming leader is very much about that. It is about, like, you don't become a leader in your mind.
yeah,
You blossom as a leader, but it's not like you're not leading anybody. Like,
yeah,
people are led by themselves,
yeah.
and everybody, like, and
No, no,
while all people will blossom as leaders, they're all leaders, but there's no one to lead because
no, no.
everybody is a leader.
Not the people blossoming as the leaders. My point is, I will, I will, I remember something that I wanted to share with you. Okay.
Please.
That's very profound. See, there is no investigation into the source. The investigation can only be into the non-source. Okay, elimination of the non-source is alone possible. You see the one like we were talking about, it's beyond words and all that. What does that mean? That is, the flower is in silence.
Yes.
It is not having a mind to think about. That is our problem.
Yeah, and we don't know that.
Yeah, that's it. No, no, but it is got caught up in that non-source things,
Right. Right.
and then we want to describe it, feel
Yeah.
it.
We want to measure it. We want to put it
Yeah,
on a scale. We want.
yeah, yeah. That's why I was chuckling, because
Yes. Yeah. That's
I always,
beautiful.
say- I always say, how is that I am blissful and joyful, even though people come and argue or engage in all these non-source things,
Right.
because I never come out of that source.
Right.
You can say your whatever you want about me.
Right. No. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's
And
about
that, you know,
you.
and
Your
and
mind
that
not.
is
Yeah, your mind is not understanding, staying in the source,
right.
and you come back to some mind again and again. That is the
Yeah.
tragedy.
And
So I was,
it's
I
a
was
it's a
like,
it is a beautiful reminder sometimes. Staying in source is just
uh, all said, Martin. With all respect, most are caught in the non-source things,
correct. Yeah.
and whatever we talk about is kind of a uh, within that.
Yeah.
So for me, why I don't meditate anymore, why I kind of say, oh, this is blissful. And that is what I identified as something that was not really conveyed from the ancient wisdom, was staying in that is like flowering without knowing you are flowering,
Right.
without knowing that you are emanating that fragrance of goodness, love, or whatever, but not naming it, saying that I am.
Right.
See, one of the first steps about realizing this inner source we're talking about, the source in which we are, not in the source in us. And but fundamental step is non-selfish work, where this individual think I am doing it, I am good like this and all that is not there. That is karma yoga, right? And they
Yeah.
say that actually purifies you. What does the purification mean? Because we have this non-source self that wants to do, oh, I want to feel better, I want to do good, I want to do, all those things are non-source things. See, there's
Right.
a beautiful word in Sanskrit to describe this, Martin. It's called hridaya. Hridaya means it is center of everything, from where everything emanates. That's the source, right? That
Hmm.
hridaya in Sanskrit also more like a heart, but the spiritual heart, not our loving heart, not our emotional heart, not our physical heart, not that. It is about the center of everything. From everything that is the source, everything comes up, right?
Yeah.
But You and we are all in the mind.
Yes.
That's why I was chuckling, because there is this particular saying. See, I have got this throat where I have some secretions coming up, right? Naturally,
Hmm.
right? Everybody. So sometimes that interferes with my speaking and all that too. So I found this particular chant that I use when I do that 12 times, as I, on the treadmill or whatever, I'll be doing that focusedly. That clears up all the secretions of the throat.
Mm.
In that, there is a very, very key word is dhimahi. Dhi means this spiritual hridaya, heart we talked about, and mahi is mind, bringing the mind and really merging in that spiritual heart. That we don't do as modern people. We think our thinking is superior, our intellect is superior, and we can think through everything. We can find answers everything through that. Stop that.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Stop that. I will just read this and I'm done. I will leave because you have other people to do. Okay. So what it does say is, remember, there is no investigation into the source. They say Atman, but the same thing. The investigation can only be into the non-self. Elimination of the non-self, that is the non-source, is alone possible. You cannot do anything about the Atman, is already there, because the source, being always self-evident, will shine forth of itself. See, there is
Mm.
another place where I read, thoughts change, but
Yes.
not your source.
Right.
Let go the passing thoughts and hold on to the unchanging source.
Yes.
That is what where our mind active, that's good for the outward things, is not serving us inward.
Right.
So stop saying anything. Stop thinking about things and all that.
Right. Yeah.
Keep quiet, and then be let the source come out by itself. It's like there's another term in Sanskrit, it's called avarana. Avarana means it's like a hung over the sun, like a cloud. It
Mm.
is veil. It's kind of you have covered that with a veil, right? And you have to take the veil off from the already self shining source. So the more we talk about these things without really engaging ourselves in the source already there, like a flower, it does open up, it does give fragrance. But what we think, by making a clever argument, by describing, even though it says you cannot describe with the word, time, space, name, form, language are not there.
Hmm. Yeah. Right.
But we want to describe it, we want to
Of
think
course.
about
We
it.
want to. We want to. We want to.
Yeah, that's why I was chuckling. You see,
Yeah. No, I see.
the simple word I would say, probably it will help a little bit, is the language of the source is silence.
Right.
I'm going to be silent. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. And that's again, it's always it's always a rude awakening for me when I
Yeah.
find myself, and then it's like, okay, well, come back, and then be silent. Like this morning I was silent and I was just allowing it to process and it do what it does. Just be there.
No,
And
you are
it's,
trying to communicate something profound,
oh,
but
at this moment, but
no, that's what I'm saying. But you are trying to do that, but you got to be aware that this is all non-source.
that is all non-source.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what. Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. It's always silence, nothingness, being, and it will because it's I am not it. It is me, and I'm and all things. And so being still with it and allowing it and just being and just getting out of the way of just getting out of the way, just letting it all be as it is. be what it is, without like the thought, any thought of is non-source. It's not who I am. Now, I remember a friend of mine once told me, like, like if you think about yourself as a 7-year-old, there is a lot that you are not, but there is still something that is connected to that, and it never changed. And everything that was overlaid on top of it got altered, got shifted, and, but all of that's non-source. But the thing that is always. And there's really nothing to say more. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. I appreciate you guys coming up. Stephanie, Dr. Rao, always a light. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.